Okay. How many times when you've been using a spreadsheet have you had to merge cells or use an obscene amount of color or add context just to have it make sense to you and your users? In Coda Docs, you don't have to work that hard because you can have text and tables in the same place, making your information easy to understand and navigate because it's all in one spot, a Coda Doc. Our tables are one of the most powerful things about Coda. We're not talking dinky little tables that you find in another word processing tool, although you can have those too. We call them grids. We're talking about interactive and dynamic databases where you can display information in many different ways and keep your content easily updated throughout your doc. These can be a replacement for the spreadsheets or databases that you've been using before. In this video, we'll introduce you to our tables. Make sure you know how to add tables and add to them, create different ways to view your tables like charts, Kanban boards, timelines, and we'll teach you how to set up personalized filters with a filter bar. This video is going to be a little bit longer since we've got a lot to cover, but you'll learn some of Coda's most powerful features by the end. Let's dive in. Tables live on the pages of docs, and unlike spreadsheets, you have the ability to connect tables so that when you update information in one table in the doc, it updates everywhere. Coda tables can be your solution whether you spend most of your day buried in spreadsheets and pivot tables, or if you're the total opposite. Coda tables are meant to be used for a lot more than you'd think you might use a spreadsheet for. I use tables for almost everything, like storing meeting notes, keeping track of my to-do list, getting feedback on a project, tracking product launches, planning social media posts, sending Slack messages, and much more complex things too. Now, tables function a bit differently than what you're used to with spreadsheets. Because in spreadsheets, we focus more on columns and cells. And the information in your spreadsheet could be organized in whatever way you wanted. Hence the need to merge, to color code, to really make it clear what your users need to look at in your spreadsheet. While in Coda tables, rows are treated like a connected unit, where everything in that row should be related. This does require a bit more organization in your tables, but it leads to being able to do a lot more with them. So let's look at this projects table, for example. You can see all of the columns in this table are related to each other. Like how I have the project title here in the first column, and then the supporting information in these other columns. All of the information in these other columns relates to the project here in the first column. So this also means that each row should be a new project. This is all really important because unlike spreadsheets where you can treat each cell individually, and you may have information all over the place, in Coda, these rows are connected, just like I mentioned. So that's why in a table, you can open up a row by clicking on them, and you can see everything in that row. Even the items that aren't showing up when you look here visually at the table, when you open up the row, you're going to see as little or as much context about that row as you want. And that's also why we can move rows all together, because in our tables, everything should be related. So you can see if I grab a row and drag it, it moves. Also, if you delete a row, it's not going to delete just one cell, it's going to delete the entire row. This does take a little retooling to switch from spreadsheets to this more database structure if you're used to spreadsheets. It's important to remember, everything in that table should be related, and what you have in that first column should then be related to everything that is in the columns to the right. We've talked about columns, right? So Coda tables, they have different column types available. You can see if I hover over, there's these different symbols for all of these different column types. In this table in particular, we have this little scale where we can change the icon. We click here and go to edit column. We're able to pick a number of different icons here, the maximum number, the value for new rows, and then when we come in here, we can select and click on the scale. We then have a people column here, where people column, there are a number of benefits for using them, but when you're assigning people to different tasks, have point people designated, people columns are great because if I hover, I can see that there is information about this person living within this, including the name and the email address. Next up, we have a select list. Select lists are going to help to clean up your data, making sure that you're not getting rogue entries, and then also will help you later on if you're filtering and organizing your tables. You can create your own select lists by clicking in here to edit column, and then you'll see those options that you set up here when you click the dropdown. Next example here is a progress bar, and we have this actually calculating on its own from the tasks associated with the projects. And it's showing us the progress for all of these tasks. And then the reaction column. We talked about reaction columns in the previous video, but you can have reaction columns in your tables as well. And so let's say you want your team to vote on which of these projects should be the first priority. They can all come in here, they can click, and they can vote on what they prefer. So one of the column types that I love that we have not talked about and our customers use a lot, it's called a canvas column. And we actually have one in here, and you can tell it's a canvas column because it looks like a page of a doc. So a canvas column creates a rich in-text editor within a table cell. So previously I would have had to link to a doc where I was actually keeping notes about what it is that I'm referencing. But if I add a canvas column and I can open that up, and this pulls up the whole row layout, this is the canvas column section here, this learn more. This essentially is showing me what looks like kind of like a page in my doc where I can type, I can add anything I want to, like call outs, I can have images, I can have videos embedded, and I can obviously have text. Now I use the canvas column to take meeting notes, plan out projects, add a lot of links, images, and a lot more. To add a new column, you can click this plus sign over here, which will then allow you to be able to select which column type you want. You can type in here or you can scroll down. Don't forget there's more under see more here as well. Now you can see that when we hover away from this table, we don't actually see the plus sign here. So make sure when you hover, when you get close to that table, you'll see it. There are a number of menus and features in Coda that you won't see until you hover over or near it. So the table options are a good example, or this option to add a new column. So let's go ahead and add a new table to this doc. To add a new table to a Coda doc, what you can do, just come in here and you're going to type / and start typing table. And you'll see it'll pop up there immediately with the option add a table. So we'll click on that. And then you'll see this option where you can either start a blank table, you can import data, which we'll talk about next, or you can connect to an already existing table, which is creating a view. And we'll also touch on that. So let's go ahead and we're just going to start a blank table here. Now, this immediately adds a table to your doc. Highly recommend that you go ahead and rename this title right from the start. Use descriptive titles because there are going to be times when you want to reference the tables in your doc. And if you have a clear name, then it makes it much easier to find that table. So you can now go ahead and you can change the name of the columns by clicking into where you see name or column 2, column 3. You can add new rows by clicking that plus sign at the bottom, or if you're in a cell here, you can just press enter or return and it will add a new row underneath as well. From here, once you have a table, and whether it's one that you added yourself or somebody else added to a doc, as long as you have editing access to the doc, you can go ahead and add content to these tables. Click into the cells, start typing. You can edit previous information in other tables just by clicking into those cells. Now you can also open up these rows. It's not going to change anything for anybody else, so you can open those up freely and not impact the experience of other people. If you are using other tools, you can use our importer to transition over to Coda, but let's say you're using a tool like Excel or Sheets where you're able to download as a CSV. It's a really easy way to add data into Coda. So we can do that same process that we did and do /table. And then we're going to click import data, and it gives you the option to import a CSV file. So go ahead and click add file, search for the file that you want to add. And then import location. So you can choose to import to just create a new table, or if you have a table that matches up, maybe you just want to import to a table that already exists. And then you can see here, import options, use the first row as headers. If that's clear and marked off in your CSV where that first row, go ahead and leave that on, because that way what you had set up as the first row in your sheet or Excel will then populate as the column names. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And then now you can see when I upload this, it turns that CSV into a Coda table immediately. It has already recognized that for this column here, we have a lot of similar values. And so we can go ahead and turn this into a select list. And so it does that work for you. So now we've already got a cleaner table right here in our Coda doc that we're able to use from the start. So now that we have a table, we can add rows, as we said, by clicking this plus sign here. And if you're looking to add a new column, press that plus sign. It's going to pull up all the different column types. Add what you want here, and you can always change it afterwards, so don't stress if you picked the wrong one. But if you click that, they're also going to see all of the column options here by clicking that caret. Go into edit column if you really want to get into some of the nuances of that column, but you'll also see all of these settings here that relate to the column that you're in. Okay, so we know how to add a table. We've got an idea of how we can add rows, either by clicking that plus sign, or actually we didn't mention this, but you can click the blue button up here if there is one to be able to add a row. We've got the basic table down, and that's a great starting point, but we use the term tables a little bit differently than you're used to. Tables can look like a spreadsheet, like we've got here. It's got rows, it's got columns. It looks like the one that we were just looking at. This looks a little more like a spreadsheet than, let's say, this card view. This card view is also called a table. And this timeline view that we have here, also called a table. All of these tables, though, are actually connected. And we can tell that by this little chain link here. This is telling me that there are views, mirror views of these tables. So these are all connected to each other. I've got even more examples here of some of the other ways that you can display your tables. We have charts, we have the detailed views, we have calendars to be able to show all your dates and deadlines. You can turn your tables into a word cloud if you wanted. We've also got this Kanban board set up where you can drag and drop your cards and it'll update the status or whatever it is that you have up at the top. And then lastly, we also have forms that function very similarly to other forms that you might be using, but all of the information immediately populates to a table in Coda. The beauty of all of this is that we can update one table and it'll update to any other views that we have. If I change the status here on this table to let's go done instead of not started, you can see it changes the status here. And the same thing applies if we, let's say we adjust the due date for Aurora Skies Task B. That's right here. If we adjust this, we can move this, and you can see the due date is changing as we move this. So there's now no more need to update multiple tabs of a spreadsheet just to make sure all of your data is correct. We call these tables that are connected to each other views. So this table is a view and this table is a view. And creating different table views allows you to display your data in a variety of ways. These views are all connected, like I said, and I can change how this view for this table is displayed here, and it's not going to impact the other table. But if I change the data, it will impact that. Now, if I hover over this table, you're going to see the table options pop up here. And this is for this view. And here are all of the options for changing how your table is displayed. And you can personalize your views even more by doing things like hiding columns, or you can filter out information by coming into the filter. You can add grouping as well. So you want to consider creating a view if you want to use the different table displays, or if you want to display the table in a different way by using the things like grouping or filtering. You don't need to create a million different views though, because we have something called a filter bar, which we're going to hit on in a little bit. But let's go ahead and create a view of a table. So right here, we've got this table again, this table view of tasks. We're going to click on the little 3 dots here on the left-hand side. And we're going to go ahead and create a view. Now, if you followed me before, you know that you can create a view by also typing /table, and that table option is going to pop up, and you can click which table you want to create a view of. That's an option as well. I often just do it this way though, because I've got the table right here. I can just click create view. So now I have this view, and I can, again, come into options. I can change how I want that displayed. I can filter it. I can sort it. I can do any of those things, and it's not going to impact what that other table looks like. So table views, they're really helpful, but there's no need to create those endless number of views for every scenario. Instead of creating new views of tables, consider adding a filter bar. A filter bar allows the person using the doc to use drop-downs and only see the rows that they want to see. Nobody else is going to be impacted or see what that person is filtering. So you don't need the endless views on multiple pages to account for every scenario that someone might want to see. Instead, we add a filter bar. So using a filter bar, I can see projects that I own by clicking here, and I'm going to click on my name. I can see the items that are due this week by filtering this due date column to just show me the items for this week. And I can also filter by status. I can filter by the task name. I can filter by a lot of different things here as long as I have that column added to this filter bar. So it ends up meaning that I use the views to change how my tables are displayed and what they look like, and the filter bar to change what data is displayed. To add a filter bar to the table, you're going to come back over here to the table you want to add it to and hover again. And you can either go to options or just click directly into filter. And there's 2 options for filtering. This first one up here is going to be a static filter that's going to impact everybody. So if you add it here and you say, I only want to show the in progress tasks, there we go, then it is going to filter that for every single person. So that's why it might be helpful to just go ahead and come down here and enable the filter bar. And you can see now it pops up with a few different fields up on the left-hand side under the title of my table. And I can come in here and I can unhide any of the additional columns that I want added to that filter bar. And you can come into the settings here and you can change what you actually want this filter to do. So now we have a filter bar that anybody in your doc can use, and it won't impact the experience for everyone else. Okay, wrap it up. Let's do a little vocab refresh. Tables can live in your doc next to text and can be displayed in a variety of ways. The rows are connected and your data should be related. Now, views are connected tables that stay updated as you make changes and can be displayed in a variety of different ways. Canvas column is a column type in a table where you can treat it as if it were a page of your doc and store copious amounts of information about the related row. And the filter bar. It's an interactive dropdown at the top of your table that allows users of a doc or you to filter down tables just for the person using that filter bar. So let's go ahead and get back into your playground doc and start by adding a new table.